Hey guys, so we're going to do a quick review on fractions and decimals, chapter 2. This is just mainly for those that want just a little bit more practice and to get ready for their quiz. So basically, when we're talking about fractions and decimals, we're basically talking about the same thing. They're part of a whole number. That's all they are. Fractions are going to be in a fraction form, decimals are in decimal forms, but they're the same number. So for example, when we talk about 1/2 is the same thing as 0.5. They are in fact the same number. They just look different because one's in fraction form, one's in decimal form. Now, if you have a if you have a fraction that you're not quite sure what the decimal form is of it, like let's say 5/6, and you don't know what 5/6 equals to, you simply divide the numerator, that top number, which is the numerator, divide by the denominator. So 5 will be your dividend, would be on the inside. On the outside would be the 6. Okay, and you start out like that. Now, if you're not quite sure, if you had those reversed, if you had 5 on the outside and 6 on the inside, well then 5 can go into 6 one time, and then it would be 1.2. And then you'd quickly realize, like, wait a minute, 5/6 is supposed to be less than 1. All your proper fractions are less than 1. Where the numerator is smaller than the denominator, that's a proper fraction. So this is going to be less than 1. The 6/6 is 1. So just be cognizant of that. So when you think, okay, which goes on the inside? Well, for a proper fraction, just remember the smaller number is going to be on the inside. Now, of course, you know 6 cannot go into 5, so that's going to be a big fat 0. But you don't stop there. You add decimal, add a 0, bring the decimal straight, and then just continue dividing until you have to stop, or you can no longer if there's a pattern. So let's take a look at this one. So 6 goes into 50. Obviously can't go into 5, but it can go into 50 8 times. 8 times 6 is 48. We subtract 48 from 50, you get 2. You can't have a remainder, not in a decimal. This isn't like a mixed number. So we're going to add another 0. It doesn't change the value at all. We're going to bring it down. So 6 can go to 23 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Subtract 2, add another 0, and quickly you realize, wait a minute, this is going to continue on. That's true. So the 8 doesn't continue on, but the 3 does. And so it's going to be 0.83 repeating. I'm going to treat it like money. It's kind of like 83 cents. Okay, like 83 cents. Okay, so let's move on. So that's basically the gist of what this is all about in terms of what are fractions, what are decimals. And the question that I have for you now is, well, how do we compare? So let's say I've got 2/3, and I want to compare it to let's say 0.62. Well, you got several choices. You could take this decimal and change it to a fraction. And if you remember how to read that, that would be 62 hundredths, right? 62. And the 2 is in the hundredths place. Remember, that's the tenths. Tenths place, hundredths place. If we had another decimal, that would be the thousandths place. So this is 62 hundredths. Now the hundredths is your denominator, and your numerator is 62. But then you see how difficult that is. How do I compare 2/3 with 62 over 100? Well, you have to have a common denominator in order to really compare them. So that could be a difficult situation. You can cross multiply, but I'm not going to go into that here right now. So not at this point. So if we went this approach, it might take a little bit hard. It might be a little bit harder to do. Okay, to find a common denominator, which is basically a common multiple of 3 and 100. Okay, maybe 300 would work, but again, that's just a little bit more work than I think is worth. 2/3, I would just divide 2 by 3. If you divide 2 by 3, okay, you'll notice Basically, you're going to end up with 0.6 repeating. Okay, and I did go kind of fast on that. But 0.6 repeating is what you're going to come to find out what that is. Okay, now if it repeats, that means your next digit also 6, 6, 6. Because this has 2 digits and this only has 1, go ahead and put the other 6 there because you know it's going to continue. Okay, so which one's bigger, 0.66 or 0.62? This is bigger, so it's greater than. Okay, don't forget this means greater than. Looks like an L, right? It's pointing to the left. That's less than. And of course you know what equal to is. Alright, so that's how you do that. Let's say we've got something similar to 3, but let's say I've got a mixed number in the mix. Haha. So number 4, let's say I've got, let's say 4 2/5. And I want to compare that to, let's say, 4 3/7. Okay? Well, what you could do is you could change them both to a decimal, like this, right? You could change that to an improper fraction. That would be 5 times 4 plus 2 is 22 over 5. 4 times 7 is 28. 28 plus 3 is 31. Okay, and you can do it that way, and you could actually cross multiply and find the answer pretty quickly. Now we didn't go over that in this lesson. Kind of wishing I did, but we didn't. We actually just divided 22 by 5 and got the decimal version of 4 2/5. So that would be 422. Okay, so this is 4.4. So this is actually 4.4 compared to 7 and 31. That goes in what? Let's see, 4 times 28. 3 left over. And the decimal, bring it down. 4 again. 28. Subtract 2. Add another 0. Bring it down. 2. 14, yeah, 14, 6, 0. Man, this is, ooh, sorry. This is a long one. So I'd probably stop about right here because it's going to continue on. So basically, look at it this way. So you've got 4 is the same, 4 is the same here, but the next digit, there's nothing here, right? So which one's bigger, 0 or the 2? Well, this one's bigger. Not by much, but it is bigger. This is going to be less than. So this is less than that. Okay. Now again, that's the hard approach. We had talked about cross multiplication. But what you could do, and I know I wasn't going to tell you over here, but let me go and just tell you over here. Make life a little bit easier. If you change into improper fractions, you can actually multiply this way. 7 times 22 and put that number right here. So that'd be 154. And then do the same thing here. 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. So 154 is less than 155. Less than. Okay, that's going to be much easier than doing it this way. But again, there's only so much time that I can go into something like this in a regular math class, and this wasn't part of the deal, the spiel. All right, so that's how we compare fractions and decimals with one another. And if you were to put from least to greatest, let's say I had multiple fractions and decimals like 2/3 and 3/4 and 0.76, and let's say 0.65, things of that nature. Obviously, you would want to change, right? You would want to change these two into decimals, or these two decimals into fractions. It's much easier to change everything to a decimal because it's easier to put them in order. Because otherwise, if you put everything into a fraction, you have to find a common denominator, not now of just 2 fractions, but now of all 4 fractions. And that's going to be not impossible, just very difficult to do. So I would just change this to a decimal. And if you go from least to greatest, well, it just happens to be exactly from least to greatest. It is. That's the smallest, second smallest, next biggest. This is the biggest one. But make sure you put them order from least to greatest, and you're going to get something very similar to that. Just put it all into decimals, and then just put your smallest one first, the next second smallest one, third one, fourth one, okay, if it's from least to greatest. All right, let's talk about multiplying and dividing, because I know this video is a little bit long. It's already over 10 minutes. And I want to make sure I use my time wisely and also respect your time as well. Okay, so if let's say I've got 5 and 1/2, and I want to times it by, let's say, 4 3/4. Okay. You want to make sure you either change them both to a decimal and then multiply it. I wouldn't do it that way unless you feel comfortable doing that. In 7th grade, you'll definitely do that. With the calculator, it makes things really simple. But being that we're in 6th grade here, we're not going to do that. So what I would do is I would convert those over to improper fractions. So 5 times 2, or 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 1 is 11, so this is 11 over 2. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 plus 3 is 19, so 19 over 4. Okay, and then what you do is just multiply straight across. You can't simplify 11 over 4, 11 and 4, and 2 19, unfortunately. So you just multiply straight across. So this is going to end up being, let's see, 209. This is going to end in 8. So your answer is 209 over 8. That's definitely an improper fraction. It's okay. It's just not the best way that you want to leave your answer. You want to put it as a mixed number. So you're going to divide 209 by 8. 2, 16, 49, 6, 48, 1 left over. So this is going to be 26 and 1 left over, same denominator. So this is 26 and 1/8. So this is the better answer. This is okay, but this is the better answer for that. So make sure, go to an improper fraction, see if you can simplify it. If not, or if you do, go ahead and multiply across, and then go back to a mixed number if you can. Okay, but if let's say we got regular fractions, like normal fractions, like let's say 7/8 times 4 14ths. Okay, you want to make sure you simplify your fractions beforehand, before you multiply straight across. You can multiply straight across and get 28 over 212, right? That's too much. Okay, then you have to try to figure out how to simplify those two numbers. You try to find common factors, greatest common factors. It can get messy. The best solution here is to try to look at your diagonal numbers, your numbers that are opposite of each other here. Okay, you want to find out what's the greatest common factor that can go into both of those. So what can go into 7 and 14? Well, 7 can go into 14 2 times. So cross that out with 2, cross this out, put 1. Okay, and 8 and 4 have a common factor. The greatest common factor of 4 and 8 is 4. So 4 can go to 4 one time, 4 can go to 8 2 times. Then you just multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 is 4. And that's it. 1/4. Okay. All right, let's do one more. Let's do division, and then we'll do a division problem, just two fractions, and then we're going to do a mixed number. Okay. Let's say I've got, let's say we got 8/9 divided by, let's say 1/3. Okay, keep it simple. So remember, when you divide fractions, you don't want to divide it like 8 divided by 1, 9 divided by 3. It's not going to work that way. What you want to do is you want to keep, change, and flip. You want to keep that first fraction. You want to change this to a multiplication, and you want to flip the 1/3. Okay. The technical term is find the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/3 is 3/1. So you keep, change, flip. and you just multiply it like you would up here, okay? Like you would do any fraction. You can multiply straight across, or before we do that, we can simplify. 3 can go into 9 3 times. It goes into itself once. 8 times 1 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. 8 over 3 is 2. Right, because 3 can go into 8 2 times with 2 left over 3. So 2 2/3. If you have it like this is fine. Nothing wrong with this answer. This is a little bit better, but again. Okay, so let's say we've got, let's say I've got a mixed number like 11 and 2/3 divided by, let's see, try to think of something not too difficult. Let's say 7/9. Okay. So you keep, change, flip, but the problem with this one is this isn't a improper fraction. So you want to change that to an improper fraction. So this would be 3 times 11 is 33, plus 2 is 35. So 35 over 3 divided by 7 over 9. So at this point you want to do keep, change, flip. And then make sure you simplify before you multiply. It makes things a little bit easier. Otherwise, you're just going to have 35 times 9 over 21. And that's going to be a bear to try to figure out how to simplify, right, to get it in lowest terms. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, goes into itself once. 7 goes into 35 5 times, goes into itself once. 15 over 1 is 15. Okay, that's it. Hopefully this helps. I know I didn't mean for this to be too long. God bless, guys. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.